Okay,
Savings.
savings. We're talking savings. So just to recap there, we're going to do a viewer email section on personal finance, career advice. They can send the questions into viewer emails. Send it in. This is non-watch related questions, because watch related questions incur a fee. That's part of my income. So we're trying to grow the another side of the channel. Savings. Savings, that's such a nasty word there. How much savings reserve should somebody have? How much savings reserve should people have? What do you think?
Well, the answer is pretty simple, and if you buy my book, you'll have it all laid out in detail. But the answer is something like this. To start off with, you need an emergency fund, emergency to cover contingencies. And I think that as a minimum, you'll need $1,500.
$1,500.
$500 in cash.
$500 in cash.
And $1,000 in a bank account somewhere.
I see.
So things happen, you can, take the cash.
Okay, so this is our emergency fund.
Emergency fund.
Okay, so every person should have $1,500. They can get their hand onto $1,500.
Yeah. Save until you've got it. Save, scrape, steal.
Let's look at the other thing. Is that how much savings should they have down the track?
Then you're looking at two types of people: self-employed people and people who work for somebody else.
Yeah.
So a lot of things can happen. You can lose your job, or you don't like the job and you want to change jobs, or you can get sick and you're not able to work for a little while, and in the interim you need to have money to pay for your bills, and these unexpected things happen unexpectedly at any time. So this is my view, is that if you're working on wages, you need about 3 to 6 months of net earnings as a reserve. So when things happen, 3 months wages to 6 months wages, that gives you time to search for another job, think things through, look around for another job, pay for the expenses whilst you're sick. And that's not sort of a bad reserve, because you're in this situation where you've got a level of certainty in employment, and 3 to 6 months is what I recommend. If you're self-employed, well, that's a bit harder, because self-employed, if you say sick, you can't just send the invoices out and expect payment. And the person that who's doing the work when you're not able to work might not be able to do the work, or people don't want to talk to second fiddles. They want to talk to the main principal, and they might want to talk to other people. So you have to be there. And if you're not there, obviously no money comes in. So for self-employed people, I've always recommended 9 to 12 months of net earnings.
9 to 12 months.
9 to 12 months
That's
of
a
net
fucking
earnings.
lot of money.
It's a lot of money, but
And
if you've got that, well, you'll feel happy. If you haven't got it, well, you are always at the mercy of the gods.
That's a lot of fucking money.
Well, in business, I've always had 1 year's net earnings in reserve in my self-employment.
This is cash reserve?
Now, well, when I was talking about reserves, in the early stages, you don't really have to have all cash. You might have, say, if you need $50,000 of reserve as a self-employed person, well, $20,000 might be cash, and the other $30,000 in the early stages might be a facility from a lender where you can draw up to a certain amount if you need to. And Citibank is one place that offers something like that.
They're a bunch of cunts, Citibank. You know that?
No.
20% interest
They
rate.
charge high interest, but it's unsecured lending, and that's the cost of providing that type of lending. You don't have to use it. I'm just saying it's a good emergency to have. What are you going to do? You're going to go to a loan shark instead, and then get your toes cut off? I mean, beggars can't be choosers. And
what the problem is Citibank, I think they're predatory lenders personally, because they give you this pre-approved loan in the mail, and you, oh, I'll just buy this, I'll just buy that.
No,
and all of a sudden,
we're not talking about buying stuff. We're talking about emergency. How much do you need as a reserve?
Sure.
We're not going to use
I
it.
see. You're
We're not going to use it. We're not going to
This is
spend
last
it.
resort.
We're going to have it if things go wrong. Now, if you go to the doctor and he says you've got to have a stomach rebore, you've got cancer, or you're going to have your testicles cut off and replaced with wooden ones. Well, you haven't got a choice, have you? You've got serious medical problems, so you have to, move away from work, and you need money. So in that contingency, well, you use that facility. When you go back to work, you can build it back up, or you might be able to say, well, I think I'll sell the second car or a truck, or I might surrender my life policy, whole of life policy, and replace it with a term policy. You've got to be careful in doing that because you might lose cover altogether. But so there's a lot of things.
If you're sick, wouldn't you?
You would talk to the insurance company and say you want to substitute whole of life with a term policy because you can't afford it, or you can't cancel this policy and then apply for another one because you won't get the other one because you've got a medical condition. But there's your whole of life policy can be surrendered. You've got, or borrowed against. You might sell down some assets, sell some shares. There's a lot of things you can do. Sell a watch. If you've got a nice Rolex watch, you can sell that
quickly.
Fucker, as you say. You don't need a Rolex watch. You can just buy one for $10, and that'll keep time even more accurate than your Rolex.
That's right.
Until you recover and you can buy a big Rolex back again. So that's my idea of how much you need and how much the viewers will need. And you've got to achieve that. You can't just sort of say, "Oh, it's too hard."
So when you put, so you have 20,000 in cash, is that what you have? Or you're saying these are when you're saying reserve, you're talking about borrowing too from fuckers like. But how much cash? How much cash should they have?
If you're self-employed, 3 to 6 months of net earnings. So if you're earning 80,000 a year, well, you need 3 months is 20,000. Or it's a bit less because you've got the tax to come out of the 80. So say if you're earning 100,000,
these could be
80,000.
things, like you could technically put some into some blue chip shares if you wanted to.
Well, that's cash. That's reserve. That's cash.
That is considered.
That's cash.
And that's part of your savings plan as well. That is part of your long-term financial future too, isn't it? So it's doubling up then, isn't it? It's double. It serves two purposes.
I'm not a very avid share buyer supporter because I've been into shares and
you did okay.
I did okay, but not as well as in property. The difference is that banks don't want to lend against shares unless it's margin loans, and you get a margin loan, and a lot of people have gone broke with margin loans.
Sure.
When I was in the bank, there was two types of people. People that bought property were called investors.
Yeah.
People that bought shares were called gamblers. And I don't think that's really changed. The attitude is still there.
The same?
It's changed a bit, but because the banks are now selling shares and their products and offering margin loans. But essentially, that mindset is still there.
Sure. But the thing is that, okay, say someone say they're self-employed, they need, they work out, they need, but so you're saying if they have a credit card which they haven't drawn up, that counts as a reserve as well?
Well, until you can replace that with cash.
How much cash should they have? Should half of it be their own money?
Or, well, ideally all of it. But until you get there to all of it, well, maybe a lending facility which is unused but available for use.
Sure. And why is it they can't control themselves then?
Well, putting it bluntly, you need a kick in the bum. The old nun with the strap might have fixed you up.
Yeah. If they have got very little self-control, they just.
Well, if you can't control, self-control, if you can't control drinking, you can't control gambling, you can't control chasing sex addiction, I think you need to get help. Now, we can put you on somebody who can help you in those regards too. But, if you haven't got control over these matters, well, what can you do? A fool and his money are soon parted.
Very good advice there. Thank you so much. There you go. Say goodbye to the fools.
Sing it off.
One.